it's just caffeine. I'll just drink 3 cans of caffeine, no problem. I'm gonna triple dose, triple scoop all of my pre-workout. I'll have 5 cups of coffee and then I'll take a double dose of pre-workout. Stop being an idiot. Coach Greg, in today's video, a man chugged 3 energy drinks and then squatted 500 pounds, and this is what happened.
28-year-old man presenting to the emergency room with numbness in his right leg. And when they look at the image, it tells them that LF might not have much time left.
And so the man who's reacting to this, he goes by the name of Chubby Woo. He's got over 3 million followers on YouTube, and he reacts to so many crazy things.
One morning at 5 a.m., LF was going to the gym. He downed some energy drinks to prepare himself. It was time to lift heavy.
So how often does this happen? You're not sleeping enough, you're waking up in the morning, you're chugging coffee after coffee after coffee, drinking in way too much caffeine. And so I know this happened to me. I was drinking massive amounts of caffeine. Eventually I was taking over 1 gram of caffeine a day. No one should be consuming over 400 milligrams of caffeine on any single day. And if you watch Andrew Huberman, you know the first thing you do in the morning, it's not to grab a cup of coffee, but it's to go out into the sunlight.
And he could feel the weight push him down into the ground. After coming up with it, his vision turned dark. Suddenly, a pain pierced through his chest.
And so because he was a nurse, he was experienced and knew that this was not normal. You shouldn't be experiencing chest pains, numbness in the fingers, and so on. And so he thought, potentially, am I getting a heart attack? I'm only 20 years of age. But remember, this guy has been training harder than last time and consuming a ridiculous amount of caffeine.
When a heart attack happens, it's often because a blood clot is in the blood vessel supplying blood to the heart. A medicine that can quickly start to work on this blood clot is aspirin.
And so he decided to take some aspirin. Many people are aware that aspirin can help prevent a heart attack. And so he waited for the medical team to arrive.
They convinced him that he probably didn't need to go to the emergency room as they leave the gym. But as the hour passed, LF still had this pain in his chest.
And he went to go do number 3 in the bathroom. I don't actually think I'm allowed to say that name. Remember, censorship. We can't actually talk about what we want to talk about. People have to say trigger warning for everything as if a trigger warning is going to help. In fact, the research does not support saying a trigger warning. When you say a trigger warning, it's actually worse for people than if you don't say it.
He laid down on his bed because he thought he could sleep this off. A tingling in his fingers and his right leg became more and more intense, and his mind was racing, unsure of what was really happening.
And so he collapses by the toilet, and this time he then goes to the hospital by ambulance.
When someone experienced lifts really heavy weights for compound movements like squat, bench press, or deadlift, they often perform the Valsalva maneuver.
During the squats, what he's doing, as anyone should be doing, is the Valsalva maneuver. You brace yourself, you flex harder than last time. You're not breathing in and out. I know that many people are saying, breathe in on the way down and breathe out on the way up. That is great when you're lifting sub-maximal lows. When you're lifting all out, for example, in a squat or 1 rep max, 500 pounds, you're holding your breath. You go down and up, and you're not breathing up until you get to past the point where you know you can get the lift. Same in the bench press. I hold my breath, unrock the weight, pause, and press, and I don't breathe out until the weight is nearly at the top.
During that stress, it causes blood pressure inside the body to skyrocket. And you can see it happen in real time because powerlifters will have blood vessels pop right out of their neck.
And so while doing this Valsalva maneuver, I'm sure you've seen people do this before. They're doing a deadlift or a squat. They perhaps are deadlifting the weight. They get it up, and after they drop the weight, they pass out. How many times have you seen those gym fail videos where people lift maximum weights only to pass out after getting the lift?
The CT scan images showed that LF was experiencing an aortic dissection. This explains his sudden chest pain radiating to his neck, but what was happening to his right leg?
And so this problem is very easy to diagnose. It happens all the time. How often do you think that somebody is going to be squatting in the gym and that they're going to have their aorta rip open from holding their breath? Remember, doctors, they do make mistakes. They can't find everything. This person, very lucky that they in fact caught this. Remember, the first ambulance team that arrived on the spot, they did not detect this. They didn't know that this was happening. Only after the guy passed out next to the toilet did he get then taken to hospital by ambulance.
When I was told about this case, This could have been me. I did powerlifting, but over time, as I finished school and did my medical training, my gym time diminished to slowly become non-existent.
And so natty or not on Chew by Moo, I'm saying not natty. Look at the weights this guy's lifting and notice how much bigger he was, not just in his body, but also in his face. That is a face indicative of somebody who was on performance enhancing drugs, perhaps testosterone, D-ball, and so on. He looks to have a puffy face. I remember that face. Why? Because I, in fact, had it. And what else do we have in common? I was also a power lifter. And I'm telling you, he does not look natural. Now, I have no proof that he's not natural, but in this photo, him deadlifting with that moon face looks not natty to me, or at least very sus. Very sus. Look at the quads on this guy as he fails the grip test. Perhaps he was on growth hormone. He causes swelling in the hands, harder to have a great grip. You can see the massive quads, and clearly the guy is in a calorie surplus. He has more body mass than last time. And look at his physique now in comparison. He appears to be a lot healthier, 50 pounds lighter perhaps. He appears to be a lot leaner, great muscles, and so good job, Chim by me.
Surgeons repair the area where his tear originated. This should fix most of his problems, and it seemed like he was doing well. But very quickly, the medical team finds that it wasn't enough.
And so unfortunately, despite the fact that they fixed this aorta tear, he still had a blockage in the blood vessels leading to his leg. And so if you have a blood vessel blockage in the heart, you're going to get a heart attack. If you get one in your brain, you're going to get a stroke. If you get one in your leg, well, you're not going to be having a leg. It needs oxygen to survive.
The swelling is so great that it collapsed the true lumen of the blood vessel, stopping blood flow to the leg. This is called thrombosis.
And so thrombosis in university, I remember this by saying it's like a thrombone. It gets stuck. You can't get blood going through it. And so there are so many things that can happen that can go wrong. You get blood clots. You can get a traveling clot that eventually gets stuck. You can get plaque that builds up. Eventually, it closes over. You can get hardening of the arteries, atherosclerosis and arteriosclerosis.
When surgeons cut into his fascia to prevent pressure from building up in his right leg, damaged muscle waste quickly spilled out and started to float around in his body.
And so the muscle is now damaged, is spilling out. Remember rhabdomyolysis? These things are very dangerous. If your muscles start to die off, it's going to cause dramatic problems throughout the body.
Surgeons had gotten in just at the right time because parts of LF's leg had already died.
And so eventually he has to go on dialysis. The kidneys can't function probably. The whole body works together. One thing goes wrong, everything is going to fail.
Why did the aortic dissection happen in the first place? The component of LF taking excessive amounts of caffeine and energy drinks that would have compounded with this heavy lifting.
And so notice that. Did I not say that at the start of the video? 400 milligrams are left. People are laughing. Oh, it's just caffeine. I'll just drink 3 cans of caffeine. No problem. I'm going to triple dose, triple scoop all of my pre-workout. I'll have 5 cups of coffee and then I'll take a double dose of pre-workout. Stop being an idiot. It's not safe. Why do you think I stopped taking caffeine for a month? And you're thinking, yeah, you're a hypocrite. You used to do steroids. Yes, but notice I stopped. I woke up and smelled the coffee and drank it, but made sure it was decaf. And so just because you're doing something wrong right now doesn't mean you need to keep doing it forever. You're drinking 2 venti cold brews for breakfast and then drinking caffeine throughout the day, drinking pre-workout, thinking, oh, that's fine, it's okay. Of course not. What's wrong with you?
At excessive doses all the time, rather than blocking inhibition, caffeine gets the body to release adrenaline. When you drink caffeine, it takes usually 4 to 6 hours for its level in your body to cut in half.
And so if you drink 400 milligrams of caffeine, 5 hours later, you still got 200, and it's increasing blood pressure. It's not good. It's not healthy. And so if you're drinking pre-workouts with stim, with caffeine and so on, do not abuse it. I'm a very competitive athlete, and when I'm taking, for example, hardcore pre-workout, I never take the full dose. I often take half or at most 2/3 of the recommended serving. And if you're very sensitive to caffeine, please consider taking pre-pump. You get the pre-workout without the caffeine, without the stimulants. You can take it in the evening and it allows you to go to bed. And so think of this. If you're struggling with your sleep and you're taking pre-workout at 6 o'clock after work to go to your evening workout, and you go to bed at 11 o'clock, 5 hours later, you still have half of the dose. And so if you take 2 scoops of pre-workout, 5 hours later, when you're trying to go to bed, you still have 1 scoop left in your system. Do you get it? Half-life, half of 2 is 1. And so what do? I don't take in any caffeine when I wake up. I open the blinds, I look out into the sun, I let myself wake up naturally. early. Minimum 90 minutes to 2 hours after you wake up. That's the minimum you need to wait before you consume caffeine. And what do? I leverage the benefits of caffeine before I go to the gym. Not only does it give me energy to train harder than last time, it also gives me that dopamine, that feel-good feeling. And so if you leverage caffeine before you go to the gym, you're going to like the gym that much more. When you drink caffeine, it makes you feel good. If you feel good and you go to the gym, you're going to associate feeling good with training. You perhaps are doing your cardio, you're going for a walk, going to make you feel good. And so here's the tips. Tips from Coach Greg. If you want to attract a partner, give her some caffeine. You go on a date, give her a cup of coffee. She's going to feel good. Make sure it's caffeinated because she's going to associate those good feelings of dopamine from being around you. And so you go up to her store, say, hey, I was thinking about you. Here's a coffee. She drinks the coffee. She's chatting to you and she's like, wow, I feel good. This guy I like. And so you can leverage the caffeine towards making that woman fall for you. See, it's all about the psychology. Don't tell me that Coach Greg doesn't give you the great tips.
Most people continuously consume more caffeine throughout the day than you could reasonably expect, that you could be chronically increasing the amount of stress on the intima throughout the aortic arch.
And so if you are born with unlucky genetics, remember, we all have different genetics. Some people can drink as much caffeine they want. They don't have any problems. Others, they drink a little bit of caffeine, lots of problems. And so if you don't have the best genetics, how will you know? How will you know that you're safe? Well, my recommendation, don't go over the 400 milligrams that the FDA recommends per day.
People take multiple supplements that all have caffeine, and it's all going to add up to much more than 400 milligrams daily.
And so if you're combining supplements with caffeine and more energy drinks than last time, what do you think's happening? You're perhaps taking double, triple the amount of caffeine you should be taking any given day. And so word of caution, don't overdo it. It's all about moderation. I'm not saying never to drink caffeine. I'm not saying not to buy my hardcore pre-workout, but I am saying don't abuse it.
Can performance-enhancing substances increase the risk of aortic dissection in the setting? It looks like they might be able to.
And so many people might be thinking, yeah, but he was on steroids. He says he was not on steroids. They've done the testing. Guy was 100% natural, but he was abusing caffeine. And remember, caffeine back 25 years ago was banned by WADA. If you took in too much caffeine while in a drug testing sporting competition, you would fail the drug test. Think of it. Caffeine is a drug. We think it's okay. We think it's safe because it's in coffee, pop, and so on. But is it really safe? Is it really okay? Well, only in moderation. And so if you're abusing it, what is wrong with you? To me, it's no different than thinking, oh, I can drink alcohol, but you drink 3 bottles of wine. What do you think is going to happen? Nothing good.
And the overwhelming majority of reasonable people would rather be able to have a career, be able to pay their rent and their bills for the next several years than to be able to lift a heavier weight.
I'm going to have to disagree with you on that one. Not everyone is going to avoid taking performance-enhancing drugs just because they could potentially lose their career for taking them. Now remember, every country is different. In Canada, it's legal to use steroids. You're not allowed to sell them, but you can use them. And so the police officers out there, firefighters, doctors, nurses, dentists, and so on, lots of them, they're taking steroids. And why do I know this? I used to sell it to them. Did you know that? I used to sell steroids. I was on 20 months house arrest, had fines, was bad. I was a bad, naughty boy. Don't do it anymore. It's not something you should do. Not proud of it. But I did it. I owned up to it. And so that is in the past over 10 years ago. Just because you shouldn't do it doesn't mean people are not doing it. Think of it. The same thing could be said for recreational drugs. Do you really think that all the dentists, doctors, and people out there are not doing anything illegal ever? Really? You really think a nurse would use a steroid? Yeah, I think a nurse would use a steroid. Probably more likely than someone who's not a nurse. You say, oh, they're risking their careers. But guess what? One thing they have is enough money to buy it. The more money you have, the more chances you're going to buy performance-enhancing drugs. You really think that all the people using performance-enhancing drugs are poor? They have no money. How are they buying it? And so if you have a job, for example, you're a nurse, you're much more likely to be able to afford it, and so you're going to be buying it.
As days become weeks in the hospital, LF's condition appears to improve. Nothing needed to be amputated.
And so luckily, months later, he was able to walk again. He was able to recover. They never had to amputate his legs. And all the things I said in this video, they're just my opinions. I'm not certain if anyone took steroids or not. Obviously, if you're a competitive powerlifter, you're more likely to do steroids than if you're not. You're literally competing to see who can lift the most weight. Steroids make you lift more weight. And so the temptation is there. I did a number of competitions, 42 drug-free bodybuilding competitions. I then resorted to using performance-enhancing drugs. Why? Because I wanted my IFBB Pro card, and that I did in fact earn.
Hey everybody, my name is Luis Flores. stars and I'm the real patient LF. And one thing that I would have done differently that day when I initially presented with those symptoms is that I would have went to the hospital right away.
And so the one regret he has is going to the hospital right away. Many times people are like, I don't need to go. I'll worry about it later. They're procrastinating. They're not being proactive. I'm telling you, if you're unsure, please do the right thing. Go to the hospital. You just never know.
Right now, I could still go to the gym. I could still work out. I can't lift more than 35 pounds. I drive with my left foot and I could still do patient care.
And looking for natural supplements, not steroids, you can consider using Ecti Builder, Turk Builder, and GO2 Max. These are my #1 selling supplements, the best of the best. And so if you're interested in any of these, code Greg, 15% off. Click the link in the description. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algorithm, like the video if you in fact like it. Don't forget to watch one of those 2 bloops. Of course, the cookbooks, training books, coaching plans by me and my team, the Harder Than Last Time clothing line. Get it all on my website. And until next time, I am out.